why motivation alone will never make you successful. Have you ever felt that surge, that electric moment when you watch a powerful motivational video? Your heart starts racing, your mind ignites, and for a brief second you believe, this is it. This is the moment my life changes. And then days pass, the fire fades, the energy disappears, the routine creeps back in, the same habits, the same delays, the same excuses, and you sit there wondering what went wrong. Listen carefully. Motivation is a beautiful illusion, but it is not the foundation of success. It is a spark, nothing more. It flares up quickly, and just as quickly it dies. And if you build your life on something so temporary, something so fragile, you will always find yourself starting over. History does not remember those who were occasionally inspired. It remembers those who were relentlessly disciplined. Think of the great minds who shaped the world. Men who stood face to face with failure, rejection, and uncertainty. They did not wait to feel ready. They did not wait for the perfect moment. They did not rely on motivation. They relied on something far more powerful. They relied on discipline. Motivation will get you started. But discipline is what carries you through the darkness when the excitement is gone. Discipline is what forces you to move when your body begs you to stop. Discipline is what keeps you focused when distractions are screaming your name. And most importantly, discipline is what finishes, what motivation begins. You see, most people are not lacking intelligence. They are not lacking opportunity. They are lacking consistency. They act when they feel like it. They work when it's convenient. They show up only when the mood is right. And then they wonder why their lives never change. But success does not respond to moods. Success responds to standards. Imagine a pilot who decides to fly only when he feels inspired. Imagine a surgeon who performs operations only when he is in the zone. Would you trust them with your life? Of course not, because in every profession that demands excellence, consistency is not optional. It is required. And yet, when it comes to your own life, your dreams, your future, you allow your emotions to dictate your action. You wait to feel ready. You wait to feel motivated. You wait. And while you wait, your potential slowly slips away. Here is the truth most people avoid. You will not always feel like doing the work. In fact, most of the time, you won't. There will be mornings when your body feels heavy. There will be nights when your mind is exhausted. There will be moments when doubt creeps in and whispers, "What's the point?" And in those moments, motivation will be nowhere to be found. That is where your real character is revealed. Because the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not talent. It is not luck. It is the ability to act in spite of how they feel. When you stop relying on motivation, you begin to build something far more dangerous. You begin to build a system. A system does not care about your mood. A system does not negotiate with your excuses. A system runs whether you feel like it or not. And when you build your life around systems instead of feelings, everything changes. You wake up and you move, not because you feel inspired, but because it is who you are. You work, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You push forward, not because you're certain, but because you've decided. That decision, that quiet internal commitment is where power is born. Because once you decide that you are the kind of person who shows up no matter what, you remove the need for motivation entirely. You no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What must be done?" And then you do it over and over again, day after day in silence, without applause, without validation. And this is where most people quit, because this part is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is not something you can post and get praised for. It is lonely. It is repetitive. It is uncomfortable, but it works. It always works, because every small action, every disciplined step, every moment you choose progress over comfort is shaping the person you are becoming. And eventually, that person becomes unstoppable, not because they are always motivated, but because they no longer need to be. Because something shifts inside you, slowly at first, almost invisible, but powerful beyond measure. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect timing, the perfect condition. And instead, you begin to operate from something deeper, something unshakable. You begin to operate from identity. This is where everything changes, because success is not built on what you do occasionally. It is built on who you become consistently. Most people try to change their lives by changing their actions, but they never change their identity. They say, I want to be successful, but their habits, their discipline, their standards, all belong to someone who is comfortable being average. And there is a conflict there, a silent war between who they are and who they want to be. And every time that war begins, the weaker identity wins, not because it is right, but because it is familiar. You see, your mind will always pull you back to what it knows, to what is comfortable, to what feels safe, even if that comfort is slowly destroying your potential. That is why motivation feels so powerful in the moment, because it temporarily convinces you that you are someone else, someone stronger, someone more focused, someone unstoppable. But when the feeling fades, you fall back to who you truly are, unless you decide to change that, unless you decide that you are no longer the person who quits, no longer the person who delays, no longer the person who waits. You make a decision, not based on emotion, but based on truth. I am the kind of person who does what needs to be done, regardless of how I feel. And when that becomes your identity, discipline is no longer a struggle. It becomes your default. Think about it. A person who identifies as an athlete does not wake up and debate whether to train. A person who identifies as a leader does not hesitate when it's time to take responsibility. A person who identifies as disciplined does not rely on motivation. They act because it is who they are. And that is the level you must reach, not surface-level excitement, not temporary bursts of energy, but a deep internal transformation, a shift in identity so powerful that your actions become automatic. And this is where clarity enters your life, because once you know who you are, you begin to understand what you must do. There is no confusion. There is no overthinking. There is only direction, and direction is everything, because without direction, even the most motivated person will wander. They will start, stop, switch paths, chase distractions, and ultimately go nowhere. But with clarity, every action has purpose. Every step moves you forward. Even the smallest effort becomes meaningful because it is aligned with your vision. And vision is the fuel that outlasts motivation. Motivation fades, but vision stays. It sits quietly in your mind, reminding you of what is possible, reminding you of who you could become, reminding you of the life that is waiting if you have the courage to build it. But vision alone is not enough, because a dream without discipline is just a fantasy. You can visualize success all day. You can imagine wealth, freedom, greatness. But if your actions do not align with that vision, it will never materialize. This is where most people get trapped. They fall in love with the idea of success, but they avoid the process. They want the reward without the repetition. They want the outcome without the effort. They want the life without the sacrifice. And life does not work that way. Every great achievement is built on a foundation of unseen effort, hours of work that nobody applauds, days of struggle that nobody notices, moments of doubt that nobody understands. And yet, you keep going, not because you feel like it, but because you have decided that stopping is no longer an option. And that decision is where resilience is born. Resilience is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not seek attention. It simply endures. It continues. When everything inside you wants to quit, it adapts. When things don't go as planned, it learns when mistakes are made. And most importantly, it refuses to break. This is the trait that separates those who succeed from those who don't. Not intelligence, not talent, but the ability to keep moving forward, no matter what. And here is the part most people will never understand. Success is not about avoiding failure. It is about becoming someone who cannot be defeated by it. Every setback, every rejection, every obstacle is not there to stop you. It is there to shape you, to test you, to refine you. And once you answer that question, everything else becomes clear. Everything else becomes clear. But clarity alone will not carry you, because now the real test begins. Not the test of excitement, not the test of inspiration, but the test of endurance. The test of whether you can keep going long after the emotion has faded, because this is where the path narrows. This is where most people disappear. They start strong, full of energy, full of belief. But when the silence comes, when the results are slow, when the effort feels invisible, they begin to question everything. Is this even working? Am I wasting my time? Maybe I'm not meant for this. And in that moment, they don't lose because they failed. They lose because they stopped. Understand this deeply. Success does not come from doing something once. It comes from doing the same thing again and again, with precision, with patience, with persistence, until it compounds. And compounding is invisible at first. It feels like nothing is happening, like your efforts are going into a void, like you're giving more than you're receiving. But beneath the surface, something is building. Your skills are sharpening. Your mind is strengthening. Your standards are rising. And one day, without warning, everything starts to connect. The results begin to show. The doors begin to open. The opportunities begin to appear. And to the outside world, it looks like an overnight success. But you know the truth. It was built in the dark. It was built in the moments when nobody was watching. It was built when you chose discipline over distraction, when you chose growth over comfort, when you chose to continue even when it made no sense. This is the power of delayed gratification, the ability to sacrifice what is easy now for what is meaningful later, and in a world obsessed with instant results. This is a rare strength because most people want everything immediately. They want success without waiting. They want wealth without effort. They want transformation without struggle. But the reality is, anything worth having takes time, time to build, time to learn, time to fail, and learn again. And if you do not have the patience to endure that process, you will never reach the outcome. This is why discipline must be paired with faith, not blind hope, but grounded belief. Belief that your actions matter. Belief that your effort is not wasted. Belief that even when you cannot see progress, progress is being made. Because without that belief, the silence will break you, the waiting will exhaust you, and you will quit just before everything changes. But when you understand the process, when you trust the journey, something powerful happens. You stop chasing results, and you start focusing on execution. You stop worrying about outcomes, and you start mastering actions. And ironically, that is when the results come faster, because your energy is no longer divided. It is focused. It is intentional. It is aligned. And alignment is where true power lies. When your thoughts, your habits, your actions, and your vision all move in the same direction, there is no resistance. There is no confusion. There is only momentum. And momentum is a force that is very hard to stop. It builds slowly. But once it gains speed, it carries you forward with less effort. Tasks that once felt impossible become manageable. Habits that once felt difficult become automatic. The person you once struggled to be becomes who you are. But you must earn that momentum. You must push through the early resistance. You must do the work when it feels heavy, when it feels pointless, when it feels endless, because that is the price. That is the cost of transformation. And very few are willing to pay it. They want shortcuts, they want hacks, they want a way around the struggle. But there is no way around it, only through it. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop fighting reality, the faster you grow. Because struggle is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It shows you where you are weak. It exposes your limits. It forces you to adapt, to evolve, to become stronger. And if you embrace it instead of avoiding it, it will transform you. But if you run from it, if you hide from discomfort, if you constantly choose the easy path, you will remain exactly where you are, stuck, frustrated, full of potential, but empty of results. So the choice is yours, comfort or growth, ease or progress, temporary pleasure or lasting fulfillment. You cannot have both. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every action you take is a step toward the life you are creating. And whether you realize it or not, you are always choosing. The question is, are you choosing consciously, or are you letting your habits choose for you? Because if you are not intentional, if you are not deliberate, if you are not disciplined, you will drift. And drifting is the silent killer of dreams, no dramatic failure, no big collapse, just slow, quiet, unnoticed stagnation, days turning into weeks, weeks turning into years, and one day you wake up and realize you never became who you were capable of being. Not because you couldn't, but because you didn't do what was required. And that realization is far more painful than any temporary struggle you are trying to avoid right now. So do not wait. Do not hesitate. Do not rely on motivation to save you, because it won't. Build discipline, build systems. Build an identity that does not break under pressure, and then move. Even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing is happening, because something is happening. You are becoming. And who you become will determine everything. And who you become will determine everything, not what you wish for, not what you talk about, not what you plan, but what you repeatedly do when no one is watching. Because in the end, your life is not shaped by your intentions. It is shaped by your standards. What you tolerate, what you accept, what you allow yourself to repeat day after day. Most people set goals. Very few set standards, and that is why most people remain stuck. A goal says, I want to be successful. A standard says, I don't miss my work, no matter what. A goal says, I want to be disciplined. A standard says, I execute, whether I feel like it or not. And standards, once set, must be protected, because the moment you lower them, even slightly, your entire identity begins to weaken. You start making small compromises. Skipping one day, delaying one task, making one excuse, and those small compromises, they don't stay small. They multiply, they grow, they become patterns. And patterns become your life. That is how people slowly drift away from their potential. Not through one big mistake, but through 1,000 small ones. So if you truly want to change your life, you must raise your standards so high that your old habits can no longer survive in your new environment. You must become someone who refuses to negotiate with weakness, someone who does not entertain excuses, someone who does not wait for permission, because the world does not reward hesitation. It rewards action, decisive, consistent, relentless action. And this is where courage enters the equation. Not the loud kind, not the kind that seeks attention, but the quiet courage to show up every single day and do what is required. Even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when it feels like you are walking alone. Because there will be moments when you are alone, moments when nobody understands your vision, moments when nobody sees your effort, moments when nobody believes in you, and in those moments, motivation will not save you, validation will not save you. Only your commitment will, only your decision to keep going, no matter what. And that decision must be made daily, not once. Not when you feel inspired, but every single day, when you wake up and choose who you are going to be. Because identity is not built in a moment. It is built in repetition, in consistency, in the small, disciplined actions that seem insignificant, but over time create massive change. This is the law most people ignore. They underestimate the power of small actions and overestimate the power of motivation. They chase big moments instead of mastering daily habits. But greatness is not built in big moments. It is built in the ordinary, in the routine, in the discipline of doing the same things over and over again, with focus, with intention, with precision. And eventually, those ordinary actions create extraordinary results. But you must be patient enough to allow that process to unfold, because nothing meaningful happens overnight, not real success, not real transformation, not real growth. These things take time, they take effort, they take sacrifice. And most importantly, they take persistence, the ability to continue, even when progress is slow, the ability to believe even when results are invisible, the ability to stay committed, even when everything inside you wants to quit. And if you can develop that ability, if you can become that person, there is nothing in this world that can stop you, because at that point, success is no longer a possibility. It becomes inevitable. Not because you are lucky, not because you are special, but because you have built the habits, the mindset, the discipline, and the resilience required to achieve it. And once you reach that level, something incredible happens. You stop chasing success, and success starts chasing you. Opportunities begin to find you. People begin to notice you. Doors begin to open, not because you asked for them, but because you became the kind of person they are meant for. And this is the final truth. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by who you become, not through motivation, but through discipline, not through words, but through actions, not through dreams, but through execution. So stop waiting, stop hoping, stop relying on feelings that come and go, and start building something real, something solid, something that does not break when things get hard, because they will get hard. There will be challenges. There will be setbacks. There will be moments when everything feels like it's falling apart. But in those moments, you will not fall, because you are no longer the person who depends on motivation. You are the person who moves forward, regardless. You are the person who shows up every single day. You are the person who finishes what they start. And that is the person who wins. Not once, not by chance, but over and over again, until winning becomes your reality. So the next time you feel unmotivated, the next time you feel tired, the next time you feel like quitting, remember this: you don't need motivation. You need discipline. You need standards. You need a decision so strong that no emotion can break it. Make that decision and never look back.